Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to welcome you all on behalf of Computer Society of India, Student Branch DDU, and Developer Student Club's DDU chapter. So, before we begin with the session, please make sure you have a decent internet connection. And also, if you have any questions during the session, please type them into the chat section. We will have time for the same at the end. I would request all of you to maintain silence and decorum throughout the meeting. Any unwelcome intrusion will have consequences. Also, please let us know if you experience any voice latency in the chat section. So, in today's session, we will be learning about an interesting Google technology, Firebase. So, Google Firebase is a Google backend application development software that enables developers to develop iOS, Android, and web apps. It provides various services it provides mainly backend services like real-time database, authentication, machine learning, etc. So in today's session, we will begin with the introduction to Firebase. We will also see the functionalities that are provided by Firebase, and we will also have a walkthrough of the code for Firebase authentication. So, for today's session, we have a very special and talented guest with us, Abhishek Doshi. Abhishek is a Google developer expert for Dart and Flutter. There are only three experts for Flutter in Gujarat, and he is one of them. He is also the youngest expert in the world. He is also a Google mentor and he mentors individuals as well as companies working with Flutter. He is the organizer of Flutter Valsad and co-organizer of Flutter India. He is also an international tech speaker and tech content writer. Currently, he is working as a senior Flutter engineer at Somnio Software. So, thank you, Abhishek, for accepting our invite and taking this session. So, without further ado, let us invite Abhishek to continue with the session. So, over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you so much, Mansi. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, you are.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I haven't created any PPT or anything because that's too much boring. So yeah, we would directly go through all the functionalities that we have on Firebase. First of all, what exactly Firebase is. As Mansi said, Firebase is a Google product and it is mainly used for backend, not just for Flutter, but you can also use this for Android, iOS, or your web application as well. There are multiple languages with which Firebase is supported, like Kotlin, Java, Node.js, and React, Flutter, and many more. So there are basically you might be thinking that is Firebase free or not, first of all. So yeah, Firebase is free until a certain limit, like for the database read and write, I guess around 500 or 1000 reads per day is free. And after that, if you are on the free plan, that is Spark plan, then you would be blocked from reading and writing for 24 hours. But yeah, there is one more plan called Blaze plan. So that is like you pay as you use. That is also a good way to use Firebase. But yeah, if you are just practicing it and you are maybe just creating a apps for portfolio or anything, so yeah, Firebase can be one of the best suitable approach for the backend because because even Firebase is created by Google and Flutter is created by Google. So basically, Firebase is very well supported with Flutter, and its integration is also very good and quick. So yeah, the link is console.firebase.google.com, and you can see that there is when you go to your console, there would be you would be having an option to add your application, add your project to the Firebase. And once you add your project, all your projects would be listed over here. There is a limit of 10 projects, but if you want to exceed that, as you can see, like I have more than 10 projects. So what you can do is you can just mail Google that you are doing this things and you want a extension for the project's quota. So yeah, I did that and I have now like 1,000 limit for the projects. And so yeah, once you add your project, you would be like having this kind of dashboard where you can see that kind of summary you are getting, where all the reads that you have, all the writes that you have performed, and how much storage is available. So first of all, let's see all the functionalities that Firebase provides. So you can see on the left panel, there is an entire list of functionalities. So if we start with the first, there is authentication. So authentication is basically the way a user can authenticate through your application. And there are many authentication services that Firebase provides. Email password is the basic one. Basically, you can send an OTP to the user, and that user can authenticate through that as well. Anonymous, there are many applications where we have the sign in anonymously. Then we have Google. Then this is Windows Game Center, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Twitter, Play Games, GitHub, Yahoo. So yeah, these are the major sign in providers that we have in the market, and all of them are available through Firebase. And actually, these all are free. Authentication is completely free. We don't have any any limit over it. But yeah, if a user, let's suppose that you have added the phone authentication, and if a user is continuously trying to authenticate, and the Firebase is supposed to be sending many OTPs, then that particular user gets blocked for 24 hours for security purposes, of course. And that is same for all the service providers, all the sign-in providers. So if the user is kind of spamming your application, then they would be blocked for 24 hours. So what you can do is whenever you want to add any new provider, you can just enable from here, and then you have to write the backend code. You don't have to do any more settings over here. So you can see, yeah, there are current quota per hour is 100. So if the user is exceeding that current quota, then they would be blocked for 24 hours. And you also have settings for one account per email address. This can also be configured on the code side, but yeah, even Firebase provides this that per email address only one account would be able to be created. And if the user again tries to create the account, then an exception is thrown. User already exists. So once you enable the sign-in methods, and once you start using the sign-in methods in your application, all the users that you have signed in are available on this users tab. So you can see that this was a maybe a temporary mails that I tried to log in, and this here the providers are available as it was an email login, so the email symbol is there. When the user was created, when the user was last signed in, and this is the user UID. This would be unique for each user, and this user ID is you can say that is the key with which you can identify each user. And not just this much, you can also reset the password from the console itself. You can also disable a account. You can also delete an account if you want. So yeah, you like basically you can handle an entire user from the console itself. So you can see that this is an admin panel kind of thing. And one more thing that we have for authentication is email address verification. So basically, when you want to send an email to to your user to verify their email, so you can actually change the template for that email. Same way, password reset, email address change, and the last is SMTP settings and the SMS verification. And this you can get from the usage tab as well. So I hope the first functionality was clear. That is the authentication. Basically, the main motive of authentication is to let you integrate your authentication services with your Flutter or any type of application. The next is Firestore Database. So Firestore Database is one of the basically Firebase provides two kind of database, Firestore and real-time database. So Firestore, both of them are no SQL database. They don't follow the SQL queries, but the Firestore database is kind of collection document relationship. So the first column that you see is a collection. Then we have document, and the third one is the fields. So basically, the collection can be considered as the database, document as the table inside the database, and the last is the fields, or maybe you can see the rows of the table. So actually, you can also add one more collection inside a document. So basically, collection, then document, then again collection, then again document. So you can create a nested collection as well. But that basically is a complex part of the application. If you want, you can of course do that. So, and you can have multiple collections. There are no limits on this as well. You can have as many collections or as many documents as you want. One thing that Firebase also provides and is very good, that whenever you create a document, if you do not provide the ID of it, it would generate a unique ID, which would be completely unique to all the documents, and you can access all those documents from that ID as well. So yeah, let's suppose that if I click on add document, and you can see here we have the document ID field, and if I don't add and just add like auto ID, so that it would create a random list or random strings, which would be the unique ID for the document. And then you can add the field and type of the field. So you can see there are few of the types available. When Firebase was first launched around 2 years back, when it was available for support with Flutter, at that time string was the only data type available, but now we have many more data types. So yeah, you can add the as many fields as you want, and you can set the default value to it. You can remove the fields, and if you want to delete a document, you can delete from here. If you want to delete document, if you want to delete document fields, if you want to delete the entire collection, you can delete from here. If you want to filter it, we have the filter as well. And if I just try to create a new collection, we have to provide the collection ID. Collection IDs are not unique or not random. Collection IDs we will have to provide by default, maybe users, photos, etc. So yeah, Cloud Firestore is mainly suggested when you want to perform really complex queries for your application. If you have simple application, and if you have just a simple read write queries, real-time database is suggested. And if you have like really complex like nested collections and sort, you want to perform sort queries as well, and you want to perform filter queries as well, then Firestore database is recommended. The next is real-time database. So the real-time database is also a non-SQL database, and basically the first one that we saw, that is the Firestore database. It it works on collection document kind of relationship, right? But the real-time database actually works on JSON format. So all the data stored in the real-time database is stored in the JSON format, and the way we can access those, the Firestore database as well as the real-time database, similar. We have the Firebase packages that we can add in our application, and we can use or we can directly access the both of the database. So the major difference between these two, the Firestore and real time, is this only, that the first one, that is the Firestore, works on collection document relationship, while the second one works on JSON format. And you can also provide rules for both of them. Like let's suppose that if you want to, that if you want that the users should only be able to read or write based on the timestamp. We have this is the timestamp, and for Firestore as well, we have certain rules. And these rules are basically like, if you want the users to access the data with authenticated users, or even if the user is unauthenticated, you want to access the data, so that can also be added in the rules. The next is storage. This is one of the fascinating feature, you can say. As the name suggests, it provides the storage facility. You can add any type of files in this. PDF, video files, image files, etc. And you can actually create a folder as well. So let's suppose that you are creating an application that is a social media application, and you want to store all the posts into this Firebase storage. So you can just create a folder of posts and then add the what do we say, add the images in here, and actually you get a unique URL of each image. So you can say, see, this is the URL, and if I open that URL, this is the image that we get. So you can actually directly access the image from this URL as well. So you can show that image in your application too, and it provides the file location, access token, and if metadata is available, it would be provided here. And one more main feature of Firebase storage is that whenever we upload an image, it performs a bit of lossless compression, so that your images, doesn't get too much bigger to store, or whenever you want to load it, it becomes much faster. The next one is hosting. So this is basically to host anything. This provides a server, and you can deploy your web and mobile apps in the Firebase hosting, and the Firebase hosting is also free. Storage is also free. Real-time database is free. Firestore database is also free. So you can actually deploy your any type of applications, mobile or web applications in hosting. You basically have there is a command line tool for Firebase hosting. You can just install that, and just run some commands, and you can host an entire web app or a website on Firebase hosting as well. And the domain also is provided by Firebase itself. Of course, if we want a custom domain, then we will have to buy it. But the default domain is provided by Firebase itself. So it's kind of like firebase.web.app. The next is functions. Basically, this is the feature where, let's suppose that you want to perform any action when a new data is added to the database. So in this case, you can use the functions part. Functions is not free. It is in the Blaze plan. So you have to upgrade your application or your project to the Blaze plan so that it moves to pay as you use. So basically, let's suppose that you want to replicate your data. So whenever a user uploads any posts, considering the same social media application, so whenever a user uploads any post, you want to replicate that post as well, so that a backup is created. So one way is to do that from the user application, but that would create a bit of load on the user application, right? So it's a good thing to use the cloud function. The cloud functions are typically written in Node.js. So you can create a cloud function, Node.js or TypeScript. You can write in anyone. So the cloud function is deployed on the Google server. And when once the post is added to the Firebase, you just need to trigger that cloud function. And the cloud function will do the work, and it would replicate the data as you want. Not just for data. Let's suppose that you want to send a notification, you can do that using cloud function as well. So whenever a user adds a post, you want to send notification to everyone, so you can do that as well. The next is machine learning. So basically, this machine learning is now being moved to an entire new part. The machine learning is available. You can actually solve common problems in your app with machine learning, like if you want to replicate your data, if you want to get a complete report on what data you have in the database, that can be done by machine learning. Basically, this is still in the beta, it's under development, but yeah, you can do that. There was one more thing available with machine learning, I guess 1 year back. That was Firebase ML kit. This is now being moved completely from Firebase to a separate package by Google. But yeah, you can host any ML model to Firebase and then use it in your application. That was also possible. And there were few default models also available, like text recognition and many other features were available in the ML kit. You can find that on the package that we have for ML kit, I guess. Google underscore ML underscore kit. But yeah, that was also a part of Firebase. So this is basically this particular things that we saw was related to the development purposes. But not just this, Firebase also provide many other features which are not related to the development purposes, but related to maintenance purposes. So the next we have is Crashlytics. So Crashlytics is one of the most used or one of the main feature of Firebase. Basically, whenever you launch your application on Play Store or App Store, and let's suppose that you get a complaint from a user that the app is completely crashing, right? So you can't actually go at the user's location, take the user's phone, run the app on that phone and debug it. That's not possible, right? So Firebase Crashlytics provides a functionality to log the crashes that happen on your application. So one way is to log all the crashes on the application, and the other way is to add the Crashlytics in the try catch part. So whenever there is an exception thrown, it would be logged into the Crashlytics. And Crashlytics actually provides a lot of information, not just the crash logs, but you can actually not just for the Crashlytics, you can actually add the positive crashes as well. So let's suppose that maybe you are performing Firebase authentication, and the user is already registered with the same email address. So there would be an exception thrown that the user is already registered. So that is actually a positive crash, you can say. So that can also be logged using the Crashlytics. Crashlytics is also free. You can directly add it. There is not even much code needed for adding Crashlytics. I guess there are 2 or 3 lines of code, and you would be able to add Crashlytics in your application. But yeah, this is the most used tool for production level apps. That is Crashlytics. Next we have is performance. Basically, performance is a functionality that provides a complete report on how your app is working, how many crash we have, how many users we have, how many you know basically all the functionalities, all the performance related reports that we have for any application would be able to get from the performance part. So as you can see, it says that get actionable insights into your app's performance and the latencies your users experience. So you can actually also get the the ping, you can say the time it takes to load your Firebase database or load any API. So that can also be that can also be available from the performance part. The next view is test lab. So the test lab part is mainly for testing purposes. So you just have to write the test cases, and let's suppose that your application is too heavy and you have multiple test cases, maybe hundreds or thousands of test cases, and your system is not that much good. So whenever you run your test case, your system crashes. So you can actually test the application completely over on the test lab as well. So it says that run tests on your apps and games across Google hosted devices. So yeah, you can drag and drop the Android APK in your this test lab, and the entire test cases would be ran by the Firebase itself on the Google server. So this is also one of the good feature, and this is also completely free. So yeah, if you're thinking that thousands of test cases won't be able to crash your system, that's not true. I have MacBook Pro M1 chip with 16 GB RAM, and recently I was running integration test on Flutter Web. So basically, I had to turn on Chrome driver and then run the integration test. So out of 16 GB, 12 GB was occupied by Chrome driver itself, 2 GB was occupied by Flutter, and only 2 GB was available. So you can imagine, like, if MacBook Pro M1 chip 2021 version can crash, your system can also crash. So this is also one of the good feature of functionality of Firebase. Next is app distribution. Now, whenever you create any application, if you are working in a company, so whenever you create any application, there would be a QA who would be testing your application. So one way is to, upload your APK to Google Drive and share the link. But this is only working if you have the Android APK. If you're developing for iOS, uploading the IPA to Google Drive doesn't work. Basically, the QA or any user won't be able to download and install an IPA on iPhone from a Google Drive. Either they you have to use the Android APK or use the iOS APK to upload the IPA to Google Drive. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're now.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, there is a power cut now. So yeah. So let's continue. So app distribution, I was saying that if you have an iOS IPA, you can't upload it to Google Drive and then share the link because iPhones or iOS doesn't allow that. You will have to compulsory upload the application on maybe test flight or release the application to Google App Store, and then your users or anyone would be able to download that. But we also have the similar kind of functionality, that is app distribution. So whenever you want to distribute your app to your QA or maybe beta users, you can upload your application to app distribution, and all the users who will be registered with your app distribution will get an email that a new version is released, and they will be able to download that version and install it, even for Android as well as for iOS. And this is also completely free. You can upload any number of APKs, IPAs on app distribution, and your users would be able to get them. Next is this analytics part. This basically the entire functionality is considered as a single analytics functionality, Firebase Analytics, we see. And basically, let's suppose you want to log the user events. So you want to get to know that how many people have registered, how many people have opened a particular screen from your application, or how many people have clicked on the login button. So you can actually add that particular events using Firebase Analytics. And this analytics is connected with the Google Analytics that we have. So all the analytics which will be logged into Firebase Analytics would also be logged into Google Analytics. So here you can actually add any analytics that we want, maybe custom analytics as well as the predefined analytics that we have. There are some predefined analytics like whichever pages that you create, your user will be, I mean, whichever pages that you have in your application. So Firebase Analytics would log each time the a particular user opens a particular page. So that is also possible using Firebase Analytics. And we have many by default analytics in Firebase, like as I said, the number of pages or how many times a particular user has opened a page. Then we have how many users were active in last 30 minutes, and then we have number of users based on app version. So these all are default analytics. We don't need to do anything, any code from our side. We just have to add the analytics to our project, and it would be we would be able to get all the default analytics. So the entire this part is related to analytics. First is basically the dashboard. Then we have the real-time analytics. Then events, conversions, how many people are there, from which country they are. We can get all this from the analytics dashboard as well. Latest releases that we have, we can get over here. Debug view, basically when you're running your application in debug, and you want to check which events are being added at which time, so you can run your see in the debug view. So this is basically an entire functionality called analytics. Next we have is engage. So these are few of the main functionalities of Firebase, you can say. uh, A/B testing is basically when you want to alpha beta testing, we can say. So when you want to run experiments to make key engagement flows more effective. So Firebase, you can run your Firebase A/B testing over here. Next is cloud messaging. So this is called Firebase Cloud Messaging or notifications. So whenever you want to send notifications to your users, you can send from using Firebase. So let's suppose that you are creating a social media app itself, and you want to notify all the users when a particular user uploads a new post. So you can do that using cloud messaging. Each user has a unique FCM token, Firebase Cloud Messaging token, which never gets expired, and whenever it gets expired it gets renewed. So you can store that FCM token in your backend, and whenever you want to send a notification you have to use that FCM token, and you can send around 450 KB of payload into your notification. So in your notification you can also actually send the title, body. If you want to have a custom sound, you can send that sound as well from in the notification itself. And yeah, basically that's a simple notification. Whatever you want to send, you can send from the Firebase cloud messaging, and then you can handle that notification on the app side, like when the user clicks on the notification what should be done. So that can be performed using the cloud messaging. And this is one of the major functionality or major uh, feature that all the production app uses. So yeah, you can also try this. This is also completely free. And the next we have is in-app messaging. Now this is basically a chat functionality, we can say. So manage in-app messaging campaigns and send messages to engage the right users at the right moment. So you can actually like maybe a kind of ad, you can say, but but the ad is related to your application itself. So let's suppose that when we open phone pay and there is a recharge upcoming for your maybe phone or TV. So you get a pop-up kind of thing that your recharge is upcoming and you can recharge directly. So the same thing can be obtained using in-app messaging. This is also completely free. You can create your first campaign, and there is a limit on campaign. Like you can send this much amount of in-app messages per day, like something like that. Next is remote config. So this is one of the fascinating feature, we can say. This is not actually more used, but one of the fascinating feature. So you would have noticed that many times in Instagram or Twitter, the color of the UI changes or the font of the text changes without even updating the application. So that is called dynamic update, or you can say cloud update. So what we can do is using remote config. Basically, remote config works on key value pad. So let's suppose you have a plan to change the font of your entire application in future. So what you can do is you can maybe add a key called font and a value as the font family that you want, and you can fetch that key value pad whenever the user opens the app. So next time, whenever you change the value of that key, that is the font over here, the new value would be fetched. So the user would get the new font. Similarly, let's suppose that you have built a chat functionality in your application, and you don't want the users to get the chat functionality right now. You want to release that chat functionality maybe 1 month later. So, but you can't actually comment the entire code, right? One way is to comment out the icon of the chat itself so that the user don't get access to it. But then you will have to release a build to enable that chat functionality. But using remote config, you can do that dynamically. So let's suppose you create a key value pair with chat and the value is false. So then, whenever the user opens the app, you fetch the key value pair from the remote config. And if that is false, if the value is false, you don't show the chat button. You can have the visibility widget in Flutter. Similarly, we have other widgets for other platforms as well. So we have the visibility widget in Flutter, which if we which enables or disables the uh, child that we have for visibility. So you can pass the value of the key value pair from remote config to that visibility widget. and if it is false, the chat button won't be visible. So whenever you are ready to launch the chat functionality, you just need to convert that false to true, and you don't need to do any code changes, any new builds, anything. You can directly do that from remote config as well. Now, this was from the user's point. We also have a good use case from development point. So whenever we are developing any application, production level application, we usually have multiple flavors. Like if we are developing, we have the development flavor. Then whenever the app reaches to the client, they have the production flavor. And if you have a QA, so the QA would be testing your application on staging flavor. So what normally happens is that once the development is completed, the developers test the application on development flavor, then they create a build and give it to the QA. So on the staging environment, once the QA approves it, they again have to create a build on the production environment and then pass it to the client. So this takes a lot of time, but we can do the same with remote config very easily. We create a key value pair called flavor, and uh, by default it will be there. So whenever an application is launched, it fetches the flavor which is dev. So it will, all the URLs of the API would be of dev. And once you are ready, you can just update the dev to staging. So all the staging environment URLs would be loaded. And same way, you can update it to prod. So all the production level environments would be loaded. And in this, you didn't had to create multiple builds. Only one build was used for staging, development, and production. So you can see that this way also you can use it. Next is dynamic links. Now, what exactly this is? Let's suppose that we can go with the same example that uh, we are creating a social media application where the user can post. So another user, you have functionality where other users can share a post to WhatsApp. So what you want to do is, if I am sharing a post to one of my friend, and if he opens the link, he should be either, if he has the application installed, he should be directly navigated to that post, or if he doesn't have the application installed, he should be navigated to the Play Store or App Store. So this thing can be implemented using dynamic links. So you can see the title or definition. Send users to the right place in your app, whether or not it is already installed. By clicking the button below, you understand to that your Android Apple app info, that is package name, will be publicly visible, because we are going to provide a dynamic linking from any other application to our application. And this is also completely free. The last one is Admob. Now, we can never make money from free ads, but we can actually make money from ads. So whenever you want to, let's suppose you want to have the ads on your application. So one way is to directly use the Google Admob, but that is still not available for Flutter. So we have the Firebase Admob, which uses the Google Admobs but provides through Firebase. So we can directly add ads to your application, banner ads or maybe pop-up ads, anything. We can add everything to our application. So currently we have it for iOS, Android, and Unity. Unity basically for games. So you can add the all the ads as well. So I hope all the functionalities are clear. Now we can actually check the code for authentication. So I have already created an application right now. Basically, it has just two screens, actually three screens. First is login and create account, and these two screens just have two text fields, which takes email and password. So you can see this is an email text field for email, and this is a text field for password. And then we have an elevated button, which whenever the user clicks on it, we are calling the login function. And based on whether it is success, then we move to home, and if it is failed, then we just show the error message. And here we have a button to move to create account. So create account is also same, email, password, and a text button, which which allows you to call the uh, add user or registration functionality. And once if it is successful, we navigate to the home page. If it is failed, we show the error message. So let's see the actual code for the authentication. So here we have the registration part. So first of all, if you want to use Firebase to in your application, you have to add this Firebase core package so that it gives access to the Firebase. Then you have to do the setup. So whenever you add a project to your Firebase console, the all the setup steps you will get. So then you can add the Firebase core package. The next is Firebase Auth for the authentication, and there is a package for Cloud Firestore for using the Firebase Firestore database. So yeah, the main for authentication, whichever functionality you want to use, you will have to at least add Firebase core package, and then you can add the main package for the functionality. And once you have done that, you have to initialize the Firebase. So the first line that we have, which ensure initialize. So what it does is it actually ensures that the Firebase or any other service that you want to initialize is initialized, and then the UI is rendered. If we remove this, an exception would be thrown when you try to run your project. So yeah, let's see the service. So here, as we are using the Firebase authentication, there are directly functions which we can use to, create a user with email and password or sign in with email and password. So here we have used create user with email and password. So you can see the documentation that it tries to create a new user account with the given email address and password. So we are passing the email address and password to the create user with email and password method of Firebase. And if that was successful, we are returning success. If that failed, it would throw an exception. So it would be caught by our catch. So here we have actually handled few of the major exceptions that we usually get, few of the common exceptions. First is weak password. So yeah, if the user is just entering 123456 as the password, it would throw an exception for weak password. If email is already in use, so you will get the email already in use exception, and then you can return the string, or maybe you can show a pop-up or anything you want. And the next is login. So the same way, the way we had the create user with email and password, the same way we have sign in with email and password. This also takes the email and password as the argument, and it does the same thing. Like it sends the, if it is successful, we return the success. If it is a failure, the exception would be thrown, and we can handle the most basic exceptions, that is user not found, wrong password. And from our home screen, sorry, from our create account and login screen, we are calling that function. So you can see here, the we are calling the login function that we have in the auth services, and we are getting the message that we get from the login. And based on the message, we are either pushing the user to homepage or showing a snack bar, to get the error. So yeah, I hope that this was clear, and I hope you learned something new today. And yeah, if you have any questions or queries, you can ask right now as well.
Yeah, so till anyone else asks any question, I have one doubt. So as we in the Firebase functionalities, we saw about Cloud Firestore and Firebase real-time database. So like,
Yes.
can you give any example like where we should prefer Cloud Firestore and where we should prefer the real-time database?
Okay. So let's suppose that you are creating an application, the social media application itself, and you want to load the post, or you want to show the post from from order, like newest post on top and older post on bottom. So whenever you have multiple queries, like where query, here we will be having order by query, right? To order by timestamp. Then we can have where query, like if you want to just show the post of the following users, users who you are following. So there we will have the where query. So first, whenever we have complex queries, at that time we should use Firestore database, because we don't have the where and order by in real-time database. And if we try to implement the where and order by somehow for real-time database also, it will create a lot of load on your application, because real-time database is not meant for complex queries. Now let's suppose that you want to, maybe you just want to list users, like list of users you want to show. So it would be just a read query, right? There won't be any where query, no order by query, nothing, just a read query. So in that you can use real-time database. So whenever you have simple queries, really simple, just read and write queries, at that time you should use real-time database. And if you have complex queries like order by, where, read, write, even in read write you have even in write you have order by, so in that case you should use cloud firestore.
Yeah, okay, got it. We have one question in the chat section. Deep is asking, is there any way to handle error when a user gets blocked in Firebase authentication?
Yeah, so whenever a user gets blocked in Firebase authentication, another exception would be thrown. I guess it is like you have been blocked by this service for 24 hours, kind of like that. You have been blocked by this service. This is fixed. So what you can do is, whenever in your exception part, in your catch part, you can check whether the exception message that you have, if it contains this blocked keyword, then you can show that, you can directly show the snack bar or kind of thing that you have been blocked for spamming the app, so that you would be able to access the app after 24 hours. I hope that solved your answer, that solved your query. Okay, great. Any other questions?
Yeah, so till anyone else ask any question, yes, I just wanted to ask, like, I just wanted to know about your journey of becoming a Google developer expert, and can you share some of your experiences and something?
Okay, sure. So first of all, let me tell you what exactly Google Developer Expert or GD is. Maybe few of the participant doesn't know that. So basically, GD is a tag given by Google. They don't pay for this. This is not a job title. This is just a tag given by Google for all the experts of a particular technology. So the way I am GD for Dart and Flutter, there are multiple Google technologies like Angular, then Firebase. Firebase is also a technology of Google. So there is GD for Firebase as well. There are GD for Google Assistant as well. Google Cloud we have. So there are GDs for all the Google technologies. So the process is like, for GDSC that we have, Google Developer Student Club, every year we Google opens the forms for the GDSC lead, right? But for GD, it is not like that. We don't have any form. Any user can't apply anywhere if they want to become GD. Now, let's suppose you want to become a GD. So, what you have to do is you just have to keep on working any of the current GD of that particular technology. So, let's suppose that if you want to become a GD for Flutter, so and you are working in Flutter itself, so what I can do is I can review your work without letting you know, and then I can directly recommend you to Google. Once I recommend you to Google, they verify all the details, they verify all the contributions of yours, and then you get a mail from Google that you have been recommended for GD, blah blah blah. And there are three interview rounds. One, first is eligibility round. So in this they would provide a Google sheet, and you have to add all the contributions that you have made in that Google sheet along with verifiable links and how many people you have impacted. That is the first round. Google takes almost around 1 or 1.5 months to complete the eligibility round, and the next round is community round. So once you clear the eligibility round, any GD from the world would take an interview of yours, related to community. So as I was, or I am organizer of Flutter Valsad as well. So I was asked that why you started Flutter Valsad or how you started Flutter Valsad. So if you are not organizer of any community, so you might get asked that when was the first talk that you gave? When was the first workshop you attended? So all this community related questions are asked, and one basic question is asked that why you want to become GD. Then the next round is of product interview. So the any person who is working at Google in the Flutter team, like if you are applying for Flutter, so any person from the Flutter team would take your product interview, and this is completely technical. You get asked for the Flutter questions itself, and once you have completed the product interview, within 1 or 2 hours you get a mail that you have been selected or not. So this is the entire process of the GD process. And what are the benefits? So basically, this is a tag given by Google, and every company would be willing to hire any expert. So that is one of the major benefit, you can say, that if you have a tag of expert, no company would be questioning on your knowledge. The second benefit is that you get to be invited at Google events. Like recently, you have the solution challenge, right? The GDSA solution challenge. So GDs were invited to mentor that solution challenge. Then when the Google I/O event that we have every year, the annual Google event. So every active GD gets invited to Google I/O event. If it is offline, they get invited to California Google office, and all cost is given by Google, but only the active GDs are invited. And frequently we get goodies and everything. Along with this, if there is any event where you want to give a talk, so let's suppose that if this event, not right now, but later after the COVID, if the events are offline, Google sponsors the travel and stay of all the GDs wherever they want and whatever mode of transport they want. So yeah, these are few of the benefits of GD. And the eligibility criteria, like how to become a GD. So mainly they see that how much impact you are creating from your knowledge. Like it is possible that you are really expert in Flutter or you're really expert in Firebase, but you can't be a GD if you're not sharing that knowledge. The main criteria of GD is to share the knowledge. So you have to give talks. I guess 2 or 3 talks are enough. Then you have to write articles. The talks and articles should be like from beginner to advanced level. It's not like that, you keep on giving the introduction to Flutter talk every time. So that's not a good thing. You have to give like overall, like starting from beginner to advanced. So talk, articles, GitHub repositories, like you can, uh, contribute to Flutter repositories by answering to issues, opening issues. If you're good enough, you can also create pull requests. If you have confidence, you can contribute to Flutter repository directly. Then you can also create your own package in Flutter and publish on pub.dev. So these all contributions are validated and connected when you want to become a GD. So yeah, I guess that was it. And maybe the experience, like how I feel, yeah, it's good. Like you get an expert tag, you get goodies frequently whenever there is a Google event. And like we recently had a meeting, like every month you have two meetings, one with all the GDs around the world and one with GDs of India. So yeah, you get the contact of all the Google employees as well. And whenever you want, if you are organizing an event and if you want to, call any Google employee, you can directly call them. So yeah, these are maybe benefits, you can say.
Okay, that was quite fascinating. Yeah, so I guess that's all for the doubt session. And this brings us towards the end of our event. So I would once again like to thank Abhishek for accepting our invite and taking such an amazing session. It was really interesting to get to know about Firebase and and other functionalities. Now I would like to give an overview of what is going to happen in tomorrow's event. In tomorrow's event, we will continue our journey about Firebase. We will have a deep dive into Firebase real-time database and Cloud Firestore. We will also build an application using Cloud Firestore. See you at tomorrow's event. And before we end the event, I'm providing a link to the feedback form. Do give us your honest feedback. And thank you for attending our session. Have a great day. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
नोट टेकर रेकॉर्डर रिमूव कर